All right. Ohio River Foundation. I'll start off, say, hi, I'm Ruth Cleet, the trustee. Then I'll throw it to Frank. Frank. No,
That's Frank,
that's Frank.
board member. I'm Andy, board member.
Dick Murgatroyd, board member.
Hello, good morning, Jordan Kleekosher, Program Officer.
Hi.
And from the other side.
I'm Rich Kogan, Executive Director of the Foundation. Jessica?
I'm Jessica Teggy. I'm Education Programs Manager for Ohio River Foundation.
Hi, I'm Carrie Wethington. I am a board member of Ohio River Foundation. Nice to meet you guys.
So tell me what's new and exciting at Ohio River Foundation, and how have you navigated the virus?
Well, I won't go into the minutia of the grant report that we provided and the grant application unless there are follow-up questions. So I'll provide maybe a 5,000-foot view. So first, as far as the COVID year is concerned, we actually weathered it pretty well. We ramped down some of our programming with the River Explorer program because there were no field trips at schools. And so it's a question of expense and revenue. So we just evened things out. And so it didn't get the big hit that we otherwise would have had if we had spent and not had field trips. So we just reworked the budget on the fly, and noticed also that we weren't getting the revenue from the field trips. And so actually it wasn't too detrimental to our bottom line. But on the mic side, muscles in the classroom side, Jessica and her team did a fabulous job just doing a little bit of tweaking on the program side, and let her go into more detail about that. But they had very good response and participation throughout the school year. Both last spring and last fall and winter. We had more than 1,000 kids, and I'll let her explain what changes and how all that worked out. And then we did take advantage of the CARES Act. So we did get some funding from the federal government last year, and we just were approved for PPP2. So we're pretty pleased that we have that backstop as far as federal funding is concerned. And we had good restoration contracts and rollouts. So we kept people busy, and Jessica is smiling, and so doing her restoration program work. So the last year, actually, we ended fiscally stronger than we did after 2019. And this year is shaping up even better. Notwithstanding the CARES Act, even without the federal government help last year and this year, we're actually going to be exiting this year in really good shape. And if we have a coffee festival in the fall, it'll be even stronger, as that's a positive net revenue event for us. So all said, we're happy and in a good place, and looking forward to the rest of 2021 and possibly expanding our staffing with another full-time employee. So very good and happy.
I guess I can talk a little bit about the changes for the Muscles in the Classroom program. So we did have to nix the River Explorer program because of all the COVID mess, but we are bringing that back this fall. So that will be that'll be wonderful. Everyone's really missed it, both on our side and the teachers. But our Muscles in the Classroom program did really, really well. So typically it is a in-classroom program where ORF staff goes in and does a 45-minute presentation about what are freshwater mussels, why are they important, what do they do, why they're in trouble. And then we set up the mussel tank, where they will keep it in their classroom for 2 weeks and take care of them and learn from them. And we provide some optional activities for them. It's a really open-ended program. But so we had to change a few different things just because we weren't allowed into the schools. So we started setting up after school hours, which was a little bit different, and we weren't able to do in-person presentations. But we went around that by, we made a visual or virtual presentation option for teachers, and we also made a recorded option for teachers. And what surprised us the most was that this recorded presentation was highly, highly preferred when it came to those two options, just because these teachers were able to show this to several different classes throughout the day. They were able to send it to their students studying virtually that weren't there for that allotted time. And they could show it as many times as they wanted. When, you know, if we were in person, it would just be one classroom presentation for 45 minutes. And so they ate that up. It was always the option when given between those two, either virtual live presentation or the recorded option. And that has been a change that we will likely hold on to just because it was so popular. Of course, they'll still have the option to have the in-person, but you know, COVID stretched everybody, and a lot of the time it was for the best. Something else that we changed was that, well, we talked about the after-school drop-off. That was nice too. That saved my employees a lot of time and energy, just because when you're not dealing with a full parking lot, the students were gone, there weren't buses in the way, you could easily pull up to a door nearest to where this teacher's classroom was. So that would ease drop off and set up time. So that worked really well for us too. We also included the Russell the Muscle book. So we got that republished from Virginia Tech, and we give that to students grade 4th through 6th. And they get to hold on to those two books. It's two books per classroom. And they get to hold on to those and then remember the program and look back and reflect. And that really pushes that environmental literacy for when we're not there anymore. Am I forgetting something? I don't know.
One expansion on the Russell the Muscle book. We've started it with 2 books per classroom, but we are considering offering the book to every student in the class. So we're just, you know, waiting for some feedback from some teachers and some schools and classes, especially this, you know, the in-person and the blended learning and everything that's going on. But we're prepared to start in fall of this year with expanding that to every student in the classroom gets a Russell the Muscle book.
I have a question. When you do your live presentation, do you have many questions from the kids? And if so, when you do these video presentations, when is the opportunity for kids to interact and ask questions and explore?
There are always questions, you're right, during the virtual presentations. What we've done is we've offered teachers an option to schedule a Skype with the educator after they've watched the video and bring us their questions. But we haven't had anyone actually take us up on that. There were a few teachers that emailed me the questions, and then I provided them the some videos or a write-up with some photos of explanations, and they were very happy with that. But we always offer it because, yeah, there's always questions, always.
Have you ever tried to incorporate some of the common questions into your presentation?
Yeah, so we send them a selection of different things that will help them throughout the day, care instructions, and some other optional activities. In that group of things we send is also a frequently asked questions pamphlet printout, where they typically print it out and then stick it right by the tank and then talk about it throughout the 2 weeks that they're there.
What's your mortality rate on the mussels?
Very low. Very low. So we've been figuring out what works the best. and we have it pretty down pat now. So we have a good sand option, and we are now transporting Ohio River water to our drop-off location. That's a little bit different because we did just use the faucet and then let it dechlorinate, but this has worked a lot better.
What we have found over the last couple of years is that certain things work better than others. But I'll just make it a blanket statement like that, including the housing facility for the mussels that we've been relying upon the last couple of years has had some hiccups. That's our Thomas More University partner. And so we had a very high mortality rate at that facility up until recently. But our stock of mussels is expanding such that we are looking at a second housing unit that we're going to construct this summer. So we're looking at that opportunity where we'll have a second location. So if in fact we do have another hiccup, I'll phrase it that way, at Thomas More University, we'll have this other facility that'll have mussels that we can fall back on, or at least have that other location. So we can expand our educators, our mussel ambassadors, so that we don't get into another situation where we're solely reliant on just one facility. And if they have a problem, it doesn't wipe out our entire mussel supply. Notwithstanding that we can quickly replenish it as we're starting to expand our different sources of mussels. But it'd be nice not to have a high mortality rate just based on housing. But as Jessica said, we're experimenting with different things with Ohio River water, and we're also following up with the teachers a little bit more to see how their logbook is filled out, and how the mussels are being treated and monitored and fed and all that kind of thing, so that we can see if there is a pattern at a particular school that well, we're getting back no mussels or all dead species, or if one school is performing better. So we're trying to match up and see if there's any difference across the different schools or classes as to how they are managing and monitoring the mussels.
How many schools are you in right now?
We've had right now either 2 or 3, but for this spring, I think it's number 14 for the year.
Mhm. How many do you project for next fall?
I would be surprised if it's lower than this spring. I think that based upon what we're seeing and hearing, both for River Explorer interest and Mike interest, and what some of my conversations with some colleagues at some other some other agencies like the zoo, is that there is this pent-up demand from teachers and heightened interest to get things lined up for next fall. So I'd be surprised if it wasn't at least another 14, 15 schools for Mike for next spring, next fall. And so, yeah, and depending upon obviously whether it's a classroom of 50 or they cycle through, 4 or 5 classrooms, it can be anywhere from 50 to 200, 300 kids per school. So the school measurement is a little bit misleading as far as number of students are concerned, but I think that the number is pretty solid
When we
as far
didn't,
as that minimum.
okay, when we didn't have to deal with the virus this year, what would your typical year be? How many schools would you be in?
Well, it was growing. So to say that it was typical, I mean, contrasted with the River Explorer program that is maturing and has incremental growth, the Mike program really was continuing to grow. So as far as calling it a typical year, the very first season that we had it, we offered it for free, and we had a high number. Then we instituted the $100 fee, and obviously you have a drop down when you institute a fee. And then it started going up and surpassing, and then we hit COVID, and and pretty much the numbers that we had from last year was about the same level as pre-COVID. So that's why we expect once COVID's gone, the number is going to start rising again. But as far as as I've talked with you before, and we really can't see right now a limit. Obviously, there is some limit with how many muscles you can have, going all over the place in different schools. But we heard from a couple of grades that wanted to have an entire grade have a muscle program before COVID. So we really see the numbers just exploding off the page with thousands of kids per year easily, and more than 10,000 at some point in not too distant future. The beauty of the Mike program is that it is asset light from a staffing perspective and cost for the schools. They can have 500 kids cycle through a classroom, and it's still going to cost them just $100 for 2 weeks. You just can't get that kind of return on investment at school as far as enrichment is concerned, especially with this kind of program. So really the numbers we think are just, we scratched the surface as far as interest, which is why we're hearing from programs around the country that want to have the Mike program replicated and see what they can do. We got one guy with a school up in Michigan. It said, name your price and I'll drive down and drive back and forth with the muscles. And so we're looking at a Mike Global program offshoot to what we offer. So it really is exciting. And I think we're just the beginning for that program.
What area do you cover Northern Kentucky at all?
Sure, Jessica, why don't you answer that one?
Yeah, we just consider it Greater Cincinnati. But yeah, we've had a few. Highlands comes to mind. We have worked with Gray Middle School. They're one of our favorites.
So are you going to expand in Northern Kentucky, or you're just moving as things go slowly?
For Northern Kentucky, the River Explorer program has been running since 2005. So 15, 16 years of, get rid of COVID years, but 15 years of experience. And we've had more than, I think it's 30 schools, and I can pull up if you want me to run through the list of all the schools that we've had participate and do participate as regulars in the River Explorer program. As I said, the Mike program is only 3 years old. So we're still educating teachers in Greater Cincinnati, including Northern Kentucky and Southeast Indiana, about that program. But we expect that that's going to continue to grow. What we really are hoping that they'll really get it, quote unquote, is that the Covington Independent and CPS are really going to latch on to the Mike program and see how good it is and how easy it is compared to other programs that may be out there. But that would be really great to be able to offer it to those schools. But we're sort of agnostic when it comes to parochial and private, and we look at all schools and all the opportunities. But Northern Kentucky definitely is of interest, obviously, to us as well.
I mean, Claire, just to clarify, I guess for me, so the program, the Mike program, the muscles are in the schools for 2 weeks, and is that the amount of time that the program actually is active in that school, or do they continue even after the muscles are gone?
Yes, the muscles are there for 2 weeks. So the first day they'll watch the presentation, whether that's a virtual or in person, whatever it is, and then the tank gets set up. And then they get to learn from them, record them, test water quality, whatever they want to do for those 2 weeks. And then we take the muscles and the program is over, but we do remember we give them the books if they're in that 4th through 6th grade range, and continue that way.
So do you go in when the muscles go in, I guess, and do a presentation, then the teacher takes over from there for the rest of the 2 weeks?
Yeah, so if they have questions, that certainly they reach out. But it's hands off for us at that point once drop off and presentation is over, unless they want to schedule a question follow-up presentation.
So when you
Dick,
say
something, go ahead. I'm
dollars-
sorry, Ruth.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, if you're continuing a line of thought, I just was going to expand if you have a question first, though.
When you say $100, is that $100 per tank delivered? Or, I mean, how do you, is it just $100 a school? How do you charge?
It's $100 for the program in that school. So whether it's one class or 50 classes, it's $100 flat. It's basically the time that the educator is spending. And so they're not visiting all 50 classes. As Jessica mentioned, she has the pre-recorded or they're doing the virtual or whatever. So, that's why it's a flat rate of $100.
So CPS schools, can they afford it? Can Covington schools afford the program?
As far as I know, based upon the participation that we've seen in the River Explorer program, because we do have some regular repeats, regular customers, clients for the River Explorer program that are paying a lot more than $100. I mean, they pay for busing and they pay for $6 per student. We do have some free trips that we do offer, but even still, they have to pay for busing. That's still an expense.
Right.
So I think $100 is an easy budget line item for CPS and independent and even really any school, $100. So I think that that's something that really is a low bar.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying it's too much. Don't get me wrong.
Right,
I was
right.
wondering if the schools have the budget for however many schools they have to get that program in.
I've not heard, and I don't think, Jessica, you can mention also, but I don't think we've heard anybody push back and say we can't afford it. I've heard that about River Explorer from schools, some schools, but not about the Mike program. Yeah, it just has so much flexibility and ease of use. The only thing we've heard from schools through any of our programs when there's been difficulty is, April is testing or things like that that can get in the way of program, but not $100.
Okay.
Anyway, Dick, what I was going to mention, something that we're thinking about for some of the out years, whether it's in the next couple of years or 5 years from now, is possibly with the Mike program, as we expand it and have more housing and more access to muscle stock, is we might enable schools, classes to install and plant, I guess this way we call it, the muscles that they work with. But that's something that still because we're involved in restoration work and that kind of thing. So, but there's a lot of legwork and a lot of conversations we still have to have with our agency partners before we would allow anything like that to occur.
As a board member, I just wanted to chime in that I've been very impressed with how Rich and Jessica and others on the team have, really kind of, with this year of so many unexpected things happening for teachers, for all of us individually, that you have really made the program kind of work for educators and listened to them, heard their feedback, and really kind of offered up something that does work for them and that they can make work within their classroom, even as things changed for them. I mean, we all know what educators have been through as well as parents. And then as a mother of 2 small children who are not quite school age, but we still took advantage of some, virtual learnings at home. I think the ability that you guys offered up, that ability for folks, whether the kids were in the schools or at home, to have that virtual learning and connect with the environment really at home was so important. I mean, there was a time during COVID where even going to the parks felt kind of scary. So to have a little piece of that learning at home, I think was really important. And you guys kind of quickly pivoted to that. I think that was really impressive to see. So just wanted to kind of offer that feedback too.
Thanks, Carrie.
So
Did you guys have any?
Questions?
The only question I have, I don't know if it's apropos or not, but what problems or situations do pollutants cause for y'all?
Did what cause?
Did what cause? I didn't hear that word.
I didn't either.
I think you said pollutants, like in the actual Ohio River, like when you transfer the water from the river to the
Oh.
Large
classroom. it's like-
dumpings, what have you?
Oh, well, as far as okay, as far as the River Explorer program is concerned, when that is running, pollution usually is not the key factor that stops that program from having a field trip day. Because at least where the 6 sites are that we have that program, usually the associated pollution event is stormwater runoff or a combined sewer overflow type event, which is associated with a rain event. And so our program is very sensitive to high water for danger reasons, risk to the students getting in the water. So we monitor the different sites for water level, for river level. And that usually is, and we watch the radar maps and see what storms are coming in and that kind of thing. And so those indicators are the first things that stop our trips from happening. And so usually that information occurs before you get information about water quality and there being the river in that area being polluted and stuff like that. So we usually use that as our canary in the coal mine to cancel a trip or not have students in the water. And we have occasionally adapted the program on site on the fly, so there's nobody getting in the water, or we toss and educate one of our staff in the water to catch some fish or something like that. For the Mussels in the Classroom program, we're getting both stock from, call them stock specimens from the river itself or the rivers themselves, or we're getting them from a hatchery, best way to explain it, down in Frankfort, Kentucky. And they are from good quality environments. So they are not impacted by pollution in whether it's the Ohio River or tributaries. So for those two programs, our education programs, we're pretty sensitive and insulated and protected from pollution events in the watershed. The other programs, obviously, with the advocacy and our restoration program, those are different situations, but the education program is pretty well monitored and safe as far as pollution impacts are concerned. Answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
When you said that you use river water for the tank that you put in schools for the mussels, how can you see the mussels if you put river water in?
You can see through it. And a lot of it is just algae, green algae, which the mussels need to survive. That's their food, so they clean it out. And so throughout the week, it just gets cleaner and clearer. And that's kind of like the, wow, like I could see what they do. They're so important. Like that aspect starts to tie in. But it works for us.
Okay.
Do you guys have any questions for us by chance? If not, our board meets at the end of this month on April 29th. And as you know, we usually like to get back to everybody within a week of the board meeting. So the first week of May, you'd be hearing back from us.
Okay. Previously, I had provided you for the prior grant cycle links to short videos that we had for River Explorer and the Mussels in the Classroom program. We've not updated them. If you have them, fine. If you'd like me to resend them to you, I'd be happy to provide them again. So let me know whether you'd like me to do that for you.
Okay, I mean, I guess you can send me the email. I'm sure there's somewhere in my email from a year ago, but I guess if you have them easily available.
I'll
that might be-
resend you the links. Gordon.
Yeah, that might
No-
be a
no
little
problem.
easier then. All right, great. I guess thanks for taking time this morning to meet with us. We really appreciate it.
Well,
Thank
thank you very
you,
much for the
guys. Thanks for
invitation and the
your-
consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Night,
Have
bye.
a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.